Welcome, everyone. Many adults begin learning English with excitement. They imagine new opportunities, new conversations, new possibilities. Some imagine traveling and speaking with people from different countries. Others think about working in an international company. For many, the dream is simple: to understand the world more easily. At the beginning, learning English feels like opening a door. A new language often feels like a new world. But after some months, something strange begins to appear. People study, they listen, they learn new vocabulary, they watch videos, and still, speaking feels difficult. Sometimes the words are familiar, but when it is time to speak, the sentences do not arrive easily. When studying alone, confidence feels stronger. Yet during a real conversation, the mind can suddenly become empty, and slowly a quiet question appears. Why is this happening? Many adults think the main problem is grammar. Others believe the difficulty comes from vocabulary. Some focus on pronunciation. But often the real challenge is something deeper, something psychological, something happening inside the mind. A common explanation is time. Adults say they are busy. They have jobs, responsibilities, families. And of course, this is true. Adult life contains many obligations: work schedules, daily tasks, bills to pay, people who depend on them. But when we observe modern life more closely, something interesting appears. Even very busy people still find time for many other activities. Watching television, scrolling on phones, short videos, messages, podcasts. So the problem is not always time alone. Often the hidden difficulty is how adults think about learning. When children learn a language, the experience is very different. Children are not afraid of mistakes. They say words incorrectly. They create unusual sentences. They repeat phrases they hear from adults. Sometimes the sentences are imperfect. But children rarely worry about that. For them, language is a game, a way to explore the world, a way to express curiosity. For adults, language often feels like a test. Many believe every sentence must be correct. They worry about grammar, about pronunciation, about sounding strange. Because of this, something important begins to happen. Adults slowly avoid speaking. They prefer reading silently, listening only, studying rules. But language does not grow in silence. Language grows through use, through mistakes, through repetition. This creates a quiet conflict. People want to improve, but they also want to avoid mistakes. And these two goals often work against each other. Another difficulty appears through comparison. Modern life constantly shows the progress of other people. On social media, learners appear speaking perfect English. Some speak very fast, others sound almost native. Many look confident. Watching this can feel discouraging. A question begins to appear. Why am I still struggling? Why is this taking so long? But online videos usually show only the final result. The audience sees the person after years of practice. The early mistakes remain invisible. The slow progress is hidden. The frustration from the beginning rarely appears. Learning a language often moves more slowly than people expect, especially for adults. The adult brain works differently from the brain of a child. Children learn language through immersion. Their brains are still building the structure of language. They absorb sounds naturally. They copy patterns automatically. Adults already have a strong language system in their native language. So when learning English, the brain constantly compares both languages. Word order may be different. Expressions may feel unfamiliar. Some sounds may not exist in the native language. Because of this, the brain must reorganize many small habits. And this process takes time, often much more time than expected. Another quiet obstacle appears when adults translate everything. When hearing English, the brain immediately tries to convert every word into the native language. At the beginning, this feels helpful. Translation can support early understanding, but constant translation slows the mind. The brain becomes busy converting words instead of understanding meaning. Real fluency usually begins when translation becomes less necessary. Instead of translating, the brain begins to recognize meaning directly. Words connect to ideas. Ideas connect to feelings. And understanding becomes faster. This change does not appear suddenly. It grows slowly through repeated exposure. Another common frustration is the feeling of sounding simple. When adults speak English at an intermediate level, vocabulary is limited. Sentences remain short. Ideas may feel reduced. Inside the mind, thoughts are complex. People know exactly what they want to say. But the language cannot always carry those ideas clearly. It can feel like having a powerful engine inside a small car. The mind moves quickly. The language moves slowly. This gap between thought and language can feel uncomfortable. Some adults begin to feel less intelligent when speaking English. But language ability does not represent intelligence. It represents practice. A person may have deep ideas while still learning how to express them in another language. Modern digital life also creates a new challenge. Information moves extremely fast. Short videos, instant messages, rapid communication. Everything moves quickly, but language learning moves slowly. It requires repetition, patience, careful listening. Sometimes it means listening to the same material many times. In a fast world, this slow rhythm can feel frustrating. People want quick progress, but language rarely follows a fast path. Another psychological challenge is perfection. Many adults feel they must understand everything. If they listen to a video and miss some words, they feel disappointed. If they read a text and miss a sentence, they feel they failed. But language rarely works this way. Understanding grows gradually. At first, perhaps 30%. Later, 50%. Then 70%. Little by little, the brain begins to recognize patterns. Words become familiar. Expressions begin to feel natural. But this progress often remains invisible. Improvement happens quietly, like the growth of a tree. You do not see the tree growing every day, but after some time, the difference becomes clear. There is also an emotional side to learning English as an adult. Adults carry memories from past experiences. Some people had negative experiences in school. A teacher may have corrected them too strongly. Classmates may have laughed at pronunciation. Exams may have created stress. These memories sometimes remain quietly inside the mind. And when adults try learning again, those feelings may return. The brain remembers embarrassment, so it tries to protect itself. One way the brain protects itself is by avoiding risk, avoiding speaking, avoiding conversations, avoiding situations where mistakes may appear. But learning always requires some discomfort. Every skill begins with imperfection. Music, sports, language. Another hidden issue involves identity. Language is connected to how people see themselves. In their native language, people feel natural, confident. Their personality appears easily. In a new language, personality can feel restricted. People may become quieter, more careful, less expressive. Some learners say they feel like a different person when speaking English. This feeling can be surprising. It is not only about vocabulary, it is also about identity. When vocabulary is limited, personality has less space to appear. But with time, this begins to change. As vocabulary grows, personality slowly returns. Humor returns. Confidence returns. Many learners experience a small but powerful moment. One day they understand a sentence without translating. A phrase appears naturally, without effort. This moment may seem small, but it represents a deep change in the brain. A new pathway has been created. Another interesting aspect of adult learning is discipline. Children learn because language surrounds them. Adults must create their own environment. They decide when to listen, when to read, when to practice. This requires discipline. But discipline does not always mean long hours. Small actions repeated consistently can be more powerful. Listening 10 minutes each day. Reading a short article. Watching a slow video. Repeating phrases aloud. These small habits slowly transform the brain. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. Another helpful idea for adult learners is acceptance. Accept that mistakes are part of the process. Accept that progress may feel slow. Accept that confusion is normal. Language learning is not a straight line. Some days feel easy, other days feel difficult. But this pattern exists in every skill people learn. The brain improves through repetition. Sometimes the brain simply needs time to organize new information. Even when it feels like nothing is happening, learning continues quietly. Sleep also plays an important role. During sleep, the brain organizes memories. It strengthens neural connections. Words heard during the day may feel easier the next day. This is why regular exposure helps. The brain slowly builds familiarity. Curiosity can also change the learning experience. When curiosity appears, the brain becomes more open. Instead of asking why something is difficult, people begin asking how it works. Curiosity turns learning into exploration. Instead of pressure, there is interest. Instead of fear, there is discovery. And this small shift can change everything. Modern life often pushes adults toward productivity. Everything must be efficient. Everything must show quick results. But language learning sometimes benefits from a slower approach. Listening slowly, repeating phrases calmly, allowing the brain to adapt naturally. This slower rhythm can feel peaceful and sometimes more effective. Exposure is also extremely important. Many adults try learning English only through study. Grammar books, exercises, vocabulary lists. These tools are useful. But language also grows through exposure. Listening to conversations, watching interviews, reading simple articles, hearing how people speak naturally. Exposure allows the brain to see language in context. It shows how words connect, how sentences flow, how rhythm and tone work. Over time, this exposure builds intuition. Intuition means the brain begins to feel what sounds correct, even without thinking about grammar rules. This is similar to how people use their native language. They rarely think about grammar. They simply know what sounds right. Building this intuition takes time, but it grows naturally through listening and reading. Another helpful idea is reducing pressure. Some adults create strong pressure around learning English. They believe their future depends on it. They worry about opportunities. They worry about success. Motivation is helpful, but too much pressure can create anxiety. An anxious mind learns less effectively. A calm mind learns more easily. Sometimes the most helpful change is not studying harder, but studying with a calmer attitude, allowing progress to grow naturally. Learning English can also become a form of reflection. Through another language, people sometimes see their own culture differently. Certain expressions exist in one language but not another. Some ideas appear in new forms. This process expands perspective. Learning English becomes more than a practical skill. It becomes a way to understand the world more widely, a way to connect with people from different cultures. And sometimes that connection becomes the most meaningful part of the journey. Adults who continue learning often discover something surprising. The journey itself becomes valuable, not only the final result. Listening improves. Reading becomes easier. Confidence grows slowly. Even small moments feel satisfying. Understanding a sentence in a movie, reading a comment online, writing a short message in English. These moments show progress. They remind learners that improvement is happening. The hidden difficulty adults face when learning English is rarely intelligence. It is rarely ability. More often, it is mindset, fear of mistakes, comparison with others, perfectionism, impatience in a fast world. When these pressures become softer, learning becomes easier. Language stops feeling like an exam and begins to feel like a process, a gradual expansion of understanding. Each day the brain adapts a little more. New words connect with old ones, new patterns appear. And slowly a second language begins to feel familiar, not perfect, but comfortable. Because language is not only about speaking perfectly, It is about connecting, understanding people from different places, and slowly discovering that the world is larger than we once imagined.